Welcome back. So today I am going to be talking to you about how much time I spend writing and editing. I'm going to give you a pretty detailed breakdown for the writing. For the editing, I had to kind of estimate because it's not something that I keep track of very well. I know how many projects I worked on and how many edits I did in that time period, but I'm not entirely sure how many minutes or hours exactly. I had to do an estimation for that one. But I will start with the writing because I was able to get a pretty exact amount since I'm using For the Words, which tracks everything for you. They didn't used to, but now you can actually see a monthly breakdown on their website. So it'll tell you how many words you wrote that month and how much time you spent writing during that month, week, year, whatever. So here's what I did. I know that since I started using For the Words, I've written about 290,000 words. And when I took away October of 2020, it came out to 284,365 words. So in a year, I'm writing roughly 284,000 words. Now, I'm going to give you the monthly breakdown because I went from October 2019 all the way up to September of 2019 because we're still in October. So I didn't want to put the October numbers for this year. So for October 2019, which is when I first started using the software, I wrote 9,272 words. November, I did NaNoWriMo that year. I wrote 48,210 words. I think I wrote a little bit more than that just wasn't in For the Words because I know I did hit the 50,000 goal. So I think part of that wasn't exactly tracked, but most of it was tracked. And then for December, I didn't write as much because I went on a trip out of country. I was in Japan from the end of December to early January. So I wrote about 5,723 words there because I was also editing a book at the time. And then January, I wrote 7,648 words. And then February, I pretty much had finished my first round of editing. And my book was with the editor, so I was free to write a little bit more again. So then in February, I wrote 16,252 words. And then in March, 22,918 words. I want to say I was doing Camp NaNoWriMo or something like that during March, so I think that's why that number was higher. Then in April, again, I wrote 22,775 words. In May, I wrote 12,461 words. And then in June, I had a writing for hire assignment, so I wrote a ton of words because I was ghostwriting. And I had a 70,000 word project, and I ended up writing 86,575 words. In July, I wrote 31,492 words. I think that was another Camp NaNoWriMo month, if I'm not mistaken. So that's why. And then in August, I wrote 6,983 words because I was editing. And then September, I wrote 11,056 words. And then so far in October, I've written just a little bit over 6,400 words because I'm deep into the editing, especially the beta edits for my second book, which is Gabriela's Curse. So those are my numbers. And then I just want to give you a breakdown of what I've actually worked on. So I ended up finishing 2 stories. One of them is called Moonvine, which is already out and published. It's in an anthology, and that was a Japanese mythology. The other short story that I wrote within that time frame was called War of the Twin Swords, and it's a prequel. And then on top of that, I also wrote the majority of Amy's Rebellion, which is the sequel to War of the Twin Swords. And I was able to finish the second book in my series, which was Gabriela's Cursed. I started writing that during NaNoWriMo, and then I ended up finishing it up. And on top of that, I also wrote about 15,000 words for the third book in the series. I'm planning to finish the rough draft during NaNoWriMo. And what else did I write during that year, during 2019 and 2020? I'm trying to think. I think I also wrote part of a political satire, which isn't going to see the light of day. I kind of scrapped it. And I did a couple little flash fictions as well. but I had 3 completed projects during that time period. So that was the month-by-month basis. So now I'm going to give you an average for the day-to-day basis. So according to this, I spent roughly 147 hours on writing in a year, which came out to roughly 24.5 minutes per day, or roughly 12.25 hours in a month. Next, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I did for editing. The way that I decided to calculate this, because I couldn't think of an exact number, and now that I'm looking at this, I realize I didn't factor in my ghostwriting as well, so that's probably another, I want to say another 50 or 60 hours at least of editing. Because I wasn't able to come up with an exact number, what I did to figure out a rough estimate was I know that it takes me about 30 minutes to go through one single-spaced Word document page. So what I did is I just looked at the number of pages in each thing that I know I'd edited, and I usually do about 3 read-throughs. So I calculated roughly 1.5 hours if it was 3 read-throughs, and an hour per page if it was 2 read-throughs. So the projects that I edited in this time frame were Gabriel is Cursed, which I'm still editing to this date, War of the Twin Swords, which I think I did 3 or 4 run-throughs for that one, and then Moonvine, which I know I did at least 3 run-throughs for that one. So I did about 1.5 hours per page for each project. For Gabriel is Cursed, I ended up spending 270 hours editing, roughly. And then for the short stories, I spent about 82.5 hours on my longer short story, which was War of the Twin Swords. And for the shorter short story, which was Moonvine, I ended up spending roughly 45 hours on it. So in total, that brought me to about 377.5 hours for the year of editing, which comes out to a little bit over an hour per day. It says 1.09 hours per day. So that means overall I'm spending more time editing than I am writing. I'm spending about 1 to 1.5 hours per day on editing, but I'm only spending about 25 minutes or so per day on writing. So I'm getting about 1.5 hours per day with writing and editing, and I'm still able to produce a significant amount of content. I have been able to up the amount that I'm writing and been able to write quicker, which has helped with that, because in an hour I can usually write somewhere in the ballpark of 1,600 words, especially if I'm doing sprints. But this is just hopefully encouraging for you to show you do not need to be writing 5-6 hours a day to produce a couple of books a year. You can definitely do it in little specks of time and little intervals of 10, 15, 20 minutes. I've definitely been doing that for a while, and while I'm not able to produce as quickly as some other people, it's still better than doing nothing. So I hope this was enlightening for all of you and encouraging. I also do not write every day. I usually write in snatched moments on weekends, in between work shifts, etc. I even at one point was writing on the Shinkansen in Japan while I was on vacation, trying to do a little word challenge. I think the writing challenges I do definitely help me get my word count up in general. But that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, go ahead and click that like button and subscribe to my channel down below. And let me know, are you like me and you write kind of sporadically, or do you have a really strict writing routine? That's all. Thanks. Bye.